Welcome to Discovering, a huge marsh, traps, and some corn. We're following the DNR on a Delta County duck tagging mission.
So today we're out banding ducks in the water surrounding Escanaba. Now we're in Portage Marsh, which connects to Little Bay DNR, and we have 4 traps that are set out here. They're baited with whole kernel corn. We set them yesterday, so hopefully we'll have a bunch of ducks in them to band. So let's go get it done.
Sit back, put your feet up. It's Monday night and time for Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forest thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. Call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill. The eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
Bird banding is one of the most useful techniques for studying the movement, survival, and behavior of wild birds. Virtually all species are or have been banded. Currently, 1.2 million birds are banded and 85,000 recovered each year. More than 63 million birds have been banded since the beginning of the program in 1902, and 3.5 million have been recovered and reported to banding offices. Millions more have been recaptured or resighted by banders. I had the opportunity to tag along with the DNR on one of their banding missions in Delta County.
All right, so we're out here banding ducks in Portage Marsh today. We've got the Escanaba Wildlife staff, and the goal today is to get these bands on these birds so we can collect information from them to inform our hunting season guidelines, regulations, and season dates.
So when we first walk up to a trap, the birds are still able to enter and leave at their own will if they can find the entrance. So as an added precaution, we like to plug the entrance, each entrance with just a piece of pipe, just to make sure we don't lose any of our valuable ducks.
You're gonna want to play defense on this door, by the way.
Okay, man.
Nice looking little wood duck. Mallard. This year we've been catching a lot of wood ducks, which is opposite from last year. So this is what we're after. We'd like to catch more mallards to reach our quota. For some reason, there just seems to be fewer mallards this year. I don't know if it's a late fledge, meaning they didn't get their flight feathers until later. But we'll take what we can get. Nice little juvenile male. Sometimes we run into birds that have a band on them from previous years, but we haven't seen too many this year. We always band the birds on the right leg, so when we see them, of course it's a 50-50 chance, but if we see a band on the right leg, we automatically assume it might be one we banded before. I recognize that series. It's probably one of our birds from last year. Looks like a nice hen mallard. We'll put her back and record that number later. We always go around the trap afterwards and comb the edges. It's possible for a bird to maybe tangle itself, and we don't want that, of course.
Male, looks like a hatchier.
Most of the birds we catch are hatchier birds, meaning they were hatched usually in June. So it takes about 9 weeks for them to get their flight feathers. That's why the majority of the birds we catch are juveniles. They're not really that smart, so they go into the traps pretty readily. This is actually an after hatchier bird, which is, we do get some, but not a lot. Meaning this bird is at least a year old or older.
46?
Yep.
All right, here you
Fly,
go.
he'll fly.
And go. Now we're doing the wood ducks.
Yep, these guys have a little bit smaller legs, so we put a smaller band on them. Of course, you want the bands to fit just right on their legs so they don't slip off, but so they're not so tight that so the birds have issues. So these fit just right on their legs.
Jeez.
So the males will once they get a little older, they'll develop a red eye. You can see how bright that eye is, and this one's already starting to get a little bit of color on his bill. Females are a little more drab, and they don't get that characteristic red eye. So that's a male. I can't tell if it's a juvenile or an adult yet.
70? After hatch your male?
So we're going to open this trap up. Right now the trap is set because it has a funnel entrance. The birds are used to coming in here to eat. So when we set it like this, they'll go in through this little bitty opening here, and then they can't figure out how to get out. So we don't want to catch any more birds tomorrow in this trap. So we're going to open these doors up very wide so the birds can just come in and out freely. And maybe we'll set it later on if we want to catch more birds.
Depending on the trap location, we'll set a platform or just bait on the ground. In this particular spot, it's about 2 feet of water, and the water's pretty brown and murky, so the ducks can't even see the corn if we laid it on the bottom for them. And as dabblers, mallards couldn't even reach the corn if we tried to do that. So we just bait on the platform, and they seem to take to it quite well. Yeah, if you head right straight ahead to that tall patch.
There's definitely a lot more wood ducks than we expected this year. We're going to have no problem reaching our wood duck quota of 100 birds here. Mallards were on our way, but it seems to be 5, 6 mallards, 10 mallards per trap, where last year we may catch 40 mallards in a trap. So we've got a repeat offender here. We're certain we know it's a bird we banded yesterday because we know the band number of that bird. So we're just going to let him go. He doesn't need to. He doesn't need to participate, so
Yeah, he can just
we'll probably
go right now.
probably catch him again tomorrow. So well, it's actually a lady. So see you later. So there's a few different feather characteristics we look at on mallards to determine if it's a male or a female. On the wings, there's this line of white that runs above the speculum, and this is a male. It ends abruptly at the end of the color, whereas on a female you get this white that extends into these larger tertial feathers. So white further onto the wing is a female, and the white stops. This is a male. That's one of the best characteristics to look at even during the hunting season, because oftentimes the birds don't have their green heads, the males, so that's what we look for. The other thing is on the bills. Almost always a female will have some mottling. You see those little dark spots. Sometimes they have a lot, sometimes they may only have 1 or 2 spots. So females have those. Males usually just have a drab yellow to green bill with no spots. And when we look for whether the bird was born this year or if it is an adult bird that's at least 1 year older, the first thing we look at are these tail feathers. And if you can see just on the very terminal ends, there's a little V-shaped notch. If a bird has that, then it's a juvenile bird. It was born this year, probably in June. Adult birds will have, and this looks like the start of an adult feather, they do not have the notches. So another thing we're doing this year throughout the state of Michigan is sampling some of our wild birds for highly pathogenic avian influenza. So this year it's been a bad year across the nation. People are finding avian influenza in some of their wild birds and also in domestic poultry facilities. Minnesota lost a lot of their turkeys because of highly pathogenic avian influenza. And actually in Michigan earlier this spring, we had some Canada geese that tested positive for highly pathogenic avian influenza in Macomb County. So we're trying to sample these birds this year, try and figure out, is highly pathogenic avian influenza still circulated in wild birds, and if it is, where at? Because those are 2 pieces of information we need in order to be able to manage this disease if it's still out there on the landscape. So here's how we sample a bird. We use these sterile swabs. Make sure we're wearing our gloves. And we swab the bird in its oropharyngeal cavity, which is a fancy word just to say in its mouth. So we get in here with this swab. All right, and we'll put that swab in a vial that contains media. We also swab the bird in its cloaca to detect any virus that's being shed in the feces. And that swab's ready to go in the vial, and we're all set now. That bird's been sampled. We'll be able to tell if it was infected at this given time. And we're sampling 50 birds in the UP region and quite a few more birds downstate, again, just to see if this virus is still present on the landscape. Another thing to mention is the virus this year, the subtype, has not shown the ability to infect humans. So it's not really much of a human health and safety concern, although, like I mentioned earlier, it does affect wild birds and certainly domestic poultry facilities. So it's important to get a grasp on if it's present on the landscape. Each year, different regions of the state receive a duck and goose banding quota, and it's important that we reach these banding quotas because we get some very valuable information from them. So when this bird, it's got this leg band here, it's got its own number, unique to this bird. We'll let it go, and hopefully this band is recovered. So it's a type of mark recapture study. And what it gives us is an estimate of harvest rates and survival rates. And those two things allow us to make educated decisions during our guidelines for our duck and goose hunting seasons. So we want to make sure that we make decisions that are sustainable. We don't want to over-harvest birds during the hunting seasons. And so that's why we're doing this effort today. It's very important to give us information that we need. That's a good one to keep out, huh? So here's a pair of wood ducks, and one of the things we look at on their feathers to determine if they're males or females is this trailing white edge on the wings. So a female will have these nice teardrop white shapes. You can see those, as opposed to a male who just has straight white lines on the trailing edge of his wings. So female, and this is a male. Similar to mallards, what we look at to see if they were born this year or if they're 1 year or older, we look at the tail feathers again. We see this bird has notches. So this will be a hatch year female. And this bird here is a after hatch year male with the nice full tail feathers. So pretty simple to tell them apart as well. This male, he's starting to get in some of his adult plumage colors. You see he's starting to get a little tuft of feathers. They'll get that nice white crown. He has a nice dark red eye coming in versus a female. She'll have a very brown eye.
The females have a nice white eye patch. This one is a pretty darn good example of that. You can see all around the eye, she's got those white feathers and that brown, big brown eye, which is different from the very red and vibrant eye of the male wood ducks.
There's always a recorder. I've had the job lately just because kind of what's been working. So when we record, we're recording the band number, the age and sex of the bird, and then the location. So for example, like Portage, we have 4 traps out here, so it's just Portage 1 through 4. You know, we're coming back day after day, and we just mark the location, and then later we come in and we mark the latitude and longitude. And all that is sent into the banding lab so that they can use this data to, like Dusty had said earlier, to come to, you know, regulations, season dates, season lengths.
Sometimes when they're really, really ornery, you can tuck their head under their wing. It makes it a lot easier to handle the birds. They're a little calmer and it's a lot less stressful. Some of the specimens that we get, the plumage doesn't really give us a good indicator of sex. So we have to investigate a little further to see whether or not the bird is a male or a female.
Yep, hatch year male.
So Dusty was looking for the reproductive organs on that bird and came to the conclusion it's a male. 74. That looks like an after hatch year. Wait, is that it?
It is.
After hatch year. Okay, good. After hatch year female. Get out of here.
So most of our duck quota that we have to catch here in the UP region, it's all dabbling ducks. 83 ready to go, hatch year female. And so dabbling ducks include like mallards, wood ducks, teal. Those are birds that you see in the ponds that tip up to feed. And they just reach their necks down, and they usually feed in shallow water, so they don't really dive to get their food. So we also have a group of birds that we call diving ducks, such as redheads or bluebells, where they are typically a more open water bird, where they actually dive down, sometimes really deep water to get their food. So that's the difference between your dabbling ducks and your diving ducks. Okay. So when we bait the ducks, we have to actually stop baiting them on August 21st. We can't have corn anywhere near the water within 10 days of the first duck or goose season. So this year we have an early teal season that starts on September 1st, and then early goose season as well. So we're gonna leave this trap set, probably come out tomorrow and band. We had a decent number of mallards in the trap, which is what we're looking for now. So it'd be nice to catch more here tomorrow.
Holy shnikes! It's a big old fish. Holy.
There's a fish in the trap?
Woo! Woo-hoo!
What is it?
Whoa, I felt like a carp.
Holy.
There's a carp in the trap.
Holy.
Oh, it's in here. Hold on. Is he? Shaking the cage.
Get him?
Yeah, box him in there. I can't help you from here. He's right in the corner there. Just go slow.
Oh, I got him.
So we just finished checking this duck trap and found that there's a big carp in the trap. So we're trying to trying to get him out of the trap.
I got him now.
You never know what you're going to find in these traps. We have deer that visit these traps, sandhill cranes, geese are a problem, and apparently carp can be too. So we're going to get him out of this trap. Send him out. Get him out of here. There he goes.
That one's not a recap. That one's a recap.
So here we have a floating trap. We construct these and put them in areas where the water is too deep to feed ducks off the bottom. And we didn't do any of these last year. And Don Avers, kind of the waterfowl specialist for the Michigan DNR, brought up the idea of making these. So Dusty and Caleb made this trap plus another one we have on the Cedar River, and we put these out. It's pretty simple. It's 3/4 inch plywood with 2-inch insulation foam below it, and it floats. And how these trap doors work, you can see it's baited with corn on the inside, and then we do put a little bit of corn on this outside of the trap part of the trap to try to get them to get on, and then they have to scoot through. And you can see it's kind of a flip trap door. It just pretty easily, you know, barely pushing on it, they slip in. There's no way for them to get back out, so kind of once they're in. Obviously the goal of the trap. An important thing to point out about this is we had, for about a week and a half, we had this open. So this top netting that you see on here, we had it folded back to one side, and we baited with corn on this, and we had these trap doors wired up so that they could go in and fly out freely, but it got them comfortable with the design, with the floating trap. We have a door on the side to get them out, and we take this floating crate and just quite simply zip tie it to the side with this open here, and you just kind of corral them in, and they go to the corner, and here they are. They're kind of ready to, you know, be taken out and banded. So that's a floating trap design, a good area for where the water's too deep to feed them off the bottom. And it worked pretty good. We caught 27 wood ducks out here yesterday. As you can see, we only got 3 today, but I think it's because we fooled them all yesterday and they didn't get fooled again.
Yeah, so every year the Michigan DNR bans geese as well as mallards and wood ducks, so we have quotas for those birds, but we'll ban anything that we have the right size band for that's a duck. Sometimes we ban teal, gadwalls, widgeon, redheads, anything that we get in the trap. If we have the right band, we'll put it on it. So this is a size 7A band that we put on our mallard ducks, and if a hunter encounters this band on a bird, he can pull it off the bird and call this 1-800 number on here and report this number. This number is unique to that bird only, and then a hunter would receive the information from that bird, species, age, and where the bird was banded. And that's the mark recapture aspect of what we're looking for to get information back from that bird if a hunter harvests it. So they just read the number over the phone. That's what we're looking for.
Well, that's it for tonight. If you'd like to keep tabs on what's coming up on Discovering or see where we've been, you can join us on Facebook or go to 906outdoors.com. I'll leave you with a look at the peacefulness of Portage Marsh.